Hello, and thank you once again for joining us for this 22nd edition of Spiritism, A Closer Look Evolution. Again, program number 22. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm Luis Lima. We have been talking about evolution in different flavors and several different layers as you have been following. If not, all the previous programs are recorded. You can always go back to Kardec Radio and watch them again, or watch them if the first time if you missed it. Anyhow, we're going to start as always with the spirit trivia for last week. That's the question we put up every week so you guys can participate with us and cast your answers. So let's bring the question for last week, and here it is. Interesting question, by the way. How can intellectual progress lead to moral progress? This is one of the questions in the Spirit's book. It's a direct question taken from the Spirit's book. Let's look at the answers and talk a little bit about them. A, by empowering humankind to advance in technology. That's not what Spiritism is all about. That's not how we are going to, not necessarily advancing in technology leads to moral progress. Technology is neutral. Technology is just a tool. We can use it for the good or for the bad. Having better technology, more advanced gadgets and all of that, it does not lead necessarily to moral progress. Again, technology is just a tool. It's neutral. Option B here, by making good and evil understandable so humans can make better choices. That's the one. That's the correct answer. By growing intellectually, we learn how to make better choices. We learn that this is better than that. If I do this, it's going to be bad for me in the future, so let me do different this time. There's a whole logic behind this. So intellectual progress allows us to have a more elaborated logic to make better decisions. So yes, the letter B is the right answer. Let's just take a quick look at the other options that were given. By redefining the concept of materialism. It doesn't really apply. We can define materialism as whatever you do. It's just a definition. There's no action. It doesn't do anything. So it doesn't necessarily lead to moral progress. And here's the last option, D, by forcing people to accept a new paradigm. Okay, we put that in there because of the word forcing. This has to be very clear. Spiritism does not force anything, does not force anyone to do anything at all, period. Forcing is something that is non-spiritist, let alone force a new paradigm. Spiritism does not impose its ideas, its conceptual philosophy. It doesn't impose anything. It doesn't force anything on anybody. So D is we could say that D is dead wrong, if you will. No forcing. Spiritism is not about forcing anybody to do anything. Okay, so we are going to continue from last week. Last couple of weeks, actually, we discussed within evolution, we discussed moral, intellectual progress. Today, we're going to look at the other side, moral evolution, moral progress. So this is an interesting way of trying to see things. All of our systems, and I'm going to pull out some of them here. This is not everything that we have, of course. It's just 6 of them. But the way of thinking, the thinking process is the same for all. All of our systems, and we have here politics, economy, technology, sports, education, healthcare, and whatever else you want to think of. All our systems were born from the same principles. All of them. What is that principle? Well, let's take a look at, let's pick, for example, the first one here on your left. politics. So let's go back in time, way, way, way back in time. So prior, maybe ancient Greece, where the society was developing more like less tribes and more like a society, more a better formed society rather than isolated tribes here and there. So when this takes place and the society becomes to have more people and more, every person has a different opinion, different ideas. So it becomes a little bit complicated for individually, each one of us to lead the way. Because I want to go left, somebody else want to go right, and some people want to go ahead, some people want to go back. So there are different avenues of thinking and willing to do things that will dismantle a society if we don't have it organized. So we need to combine this, get these people together so the society is alive and kicking all the time. How is that done? So in the old days, going back to ancient Greece and so, we decided that let's just put in numbers so it's easier to think. So let's say the society now has 1,000 people. So we are no longer several tribes, or we are 1,000 people living together. We're gonna have to be together, all of us. So if the thing is getting disorganized, and it will if we don't have any sort of control mechanism, then we have to elect some people and put them in charge of keeping things together so the society doesn't fall apart. So let's say that to control or to keep their eyes on 1,000 people, let's just say we need 10 people. 10 people will just get it done. So these 10 people have to be 10 people out of those 1,000, all right? So how are we going to choose these 10 people? What makes us choose A, not B? What makes us choose this guy, not that guy? This woman, not that woman? What makes it, what makes us decide? What made us decide in the early days was, I'm not going to select, or I'm not going to elect, using a modern word. So I'm not going to pick somebody that is, some sort of, I would say, has a criminal tendencies. He does things that are not right. He's a very aggressive. He does things that we don't consider good, right? We're not going to pick these people. We're going to pick the ones exactly the other way around. Those interested in doing good things, talking to people about being better people, having great ideas to keep the society together, to keep the bond among all of us together, and the society flows, nice and easy. That's how politics starts. So we elect people that have good moral standards. So politics, is based on moral standards. Those elected are the ones who have better morals. I'm not saying that's the case today. We're not talking about today. We are talking about the basics of politics in general, everywhere. Economy, it's about the same thing. It's not too much of a difference here, because economy starts with, in the old days, the cavemen trading little things with, little stones and little pieces of wood. They would represent certain benefits and some gains, to a point where this is getting disorganized. We need to get this thing more in shape. We need to shape this ability of trading things. So it is, first of all, easier to keep doing this, and have the thing more consistent. So how are we going to do this? Well, why are we going to do this? This is in benefit for everybody. It's a win-win. We're going to do this because everybody then uses the same reference called currency, right? and everybody can look at the currency and see this is worth this much, this is worth that much. Okay, it makes sense that this thing requires more effort to acquire and purchase than that one. That's economy, also based on moral standards. So everybody has the same opportunity, everybody can do the same thing, and everybody understands everybody. You would in order to trade things with somebody back in the old days, you would not necessarily choose somebody that you know has created trouble because they want to take advantage of something because of their history. Oh, this guy took advantage of me. He gave me this and it wasn't really worth it. It was a bad thing for me. So word goes around and you really don't want to do any type of economic transaction with that person. And that's how it goes. It's based on moral standards. Here's another one, technology. Same thing. Technology, if you look at the greatest, possibly the greatest advance of all, which the greatest, I'm not going to say advanced because it's hard to tell which one, but there's one of them close to our time, which is one of these dividers, before and after. It's called Internet. The Internet goes public in 1992, but it didn't start in 1992. It started in the 60s. And what was the idea behind it? Well, very nice, very nice. We have a university somewhere working on doing some work and research on a certain subject. And suddenly they get to know that another university on the completely opposite side of the country or even the world is kind of doing the same thing. They are researching also, and it would benefit both and in general the outcome if they were working together, trading ideas. Oh, what have you found so far? Oh, I'm here on this particular point on my research, and the other guy's gonna say, oh, we advanced a little bit more here, but you got something here that I didn't found out yet. So you see the trading ideas with a purpose. What is the purpose? To have a better technology that can bring benefit to the world. That integration of universities started in the 60s. For 30 years, it was only within the university, among universities. In 1992, the idea became public and it was renamed from ARPANET to Internet. So the Internet is something that was built from scratch towards, let's talk all together, let's share ideas. So what we see today is not that. Internet, not necessarily, it's a tool for moral standards. We have awful and ugly things on the internet, unfortunately. But it wasn't born that way. It wasn't born for that. It was transformed by us, men, towards that avenue, direction. Sports, same thing. Sports come from the old ancient Greece and even before, actually. And it was a sort of healthy competition, not competition to kill and, destroy things, nothing like this. It wasn't. With time, it became something, that left the moral standards about the ability to compete, to grow, competing against somebody with the ability, with the idea of I will have better ability, I will have to put more effort in myself if I want to compete with somebody else. Not because I want to kill somebody else, not because I want to just, do something wrong towards everybody else. Education, same thing. It was created with the moral standard, what is teach the next generations what we know and empower them to know even more than we do. Same for healthcare. Healthcare. We are going to create a system that will benefit. This is everywhere. We're talking about humanity. We're not talking about a particular place. This is everywhere. We're going to create a system that provides assistance to those who are sick, who need help, and we're going to put something in place. And you see, these systems, all of them, they came from a moral. With time, today, in 2021, we look at these systems and what do we find underlying and sustaining all of them? We can barely tell. We can barely tell. And time goes by, it becomes worse. So when we get to the point where we completely forgot what made these systems to be up and running, they're gonna implode. They're gonna implode because they were based on something that no longer exists or is dying. So all these systems, because of the moral standards that were changed with time, and that's a whole different story. That's a different study. But because of we kind of abandoned the the morality to the extent that we should have, we got to turn to the wrong side, and we are suffering. All of these systems are suffering. They're about to implode. So are we. Humanity is going through a very difficult phase because now we join these two things together for such a long time. We had a tremendous amount, if you want to quantify, tremendous amount of intellectual progress, but almost nothing was devoted to moral progress, very little of it. So now we are in trouble. Unfortunately, that's what we see. We see a lot. We see that intellectual progress throughout history of humanity was a lot more developed than moral progress. And we need moral progress. We need moral evolution. We need to sustain our systems. What seems to be happening is that the systems have to be replaced. They would kind of, I'm going to use a modern word here, implode, and we have to recreate them or reconstruct them. That's part of the law of destruction, by the way. So this moral evolution became something sort of secondary for us, unfortunately. And it's making a difference. It's leading us to a situation that we're not happy about it. All of us, we complain, we see things that we hardly believe in terms of moral standards. So unfortunately, that's what happened. And then, with this in mind, we go back to the Spirit's book, where Allan Kardec publishes something that he calls the Spiritist hierarchy. What happened is Allan Kardec he's writing the Spirit's book, he's writing his first book, and then he gets to a point where he says, well, for me to explain what I need to explain, given to me by the Spirit, right, I would have to kind of classify the spirits according to their moral advancement. Some of the spirits are in the very beginning, some of them are very advanced already, and there's all sorts of spirits in the middle. So he groups these spirits, he categorizes in 10 groups, as you see here: impure, frivolous, pseudo-learning, and so forth. Okay, so these 10 groups. And he puts a group. He groups the first 5 categories in what he calls the orders. So these first 5 on your left here, by the way, going from left to right means going from the less advanced to the most advanced, okay, in the Spirit's book. So he groups the first 5, the 5 least advanced ones, and he calls these are third order spirits. They are called imperfect. He groups the next 4 and calls them second order spirits, good spirits. And there's a category by itself, pure spirits, which is what he calls the first order. So as we look at this here, the more we are on and each one of us is somewhere. Okay? We are all coming from impure, we're all going to go to pure. All of us. The spirits are leaning towards the left, meaning the third order spirits, less advanced, don't see life in general, don't see things as those in the far right green ones, wise and superior. They see things different. And why is that? So Allan Kardec is going to explain to us. These, we're going to call red spirits, the 5 on the left, and green spirits, the 4 next ones, the good ones. So the red spirits in perfect third order, what happens here is the dominance of matter over spirit. Well, what does it mean, dominance of matter over spirit? Let's try to explain this. When we are on our very first human incarnations, meaning we are impure, we all been there, all of us, we have been there. So impure spirits have, it's just their very first incarnations. The influence of the material world is much, 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 much higher, almost 100% over the influence of the spirit. There's got to be influence of the spirit because they are an incarnate spirit. So it's almost like a 99% influence of what happens in the material plane and 1% of what happens of their spirit. As they go along and they become more advanced, they're going to migrate, they're going to walk, if you will, on your graphic from left to right. As they go walking from left to right, the influence of matter diminishes and the influence of the spirit increases. So it decreases how much they're influenced by matter, by the material things, and increases how much they are influenced by spiritual things. To the point where after they are these called superior spirits, they no longer have to incarnate to advance. They have perfected themselves. That's what Allan Kardec calls pure spirits. So pure spirits are those who have gone all the way from impure on the left to the far right. They've done everything. They've lived and experienced all the possibilities. So what predominance of matter over spirit means is, for the red spirits, they are still much influenced by the material world. We are third order spirits. We are imperfect spirits living in an orb that is compatible with third world spirits. Trials and expiations, earth is one of them. Now, if you look at the other ones, the green ones, the predominance is the spirit over matter. They have advanced to a point where what happens in the material world no longer determines how they live, which is not the case for us. Here's a simple example. You might be watching television, okay? Just watching television, nothing really important, and some sort of advertisement comes over for something you don't really need, but you're watching TV, so the commercial comes on and you look at it. And what happens is this commercial becomes massive. It will be on every single commercial break, sometimes more than one time within the same commercial break, a massive, I would say, presence within your house, within your home, because you're home watching TV. And suddenly you might start thinking, well, it would be a good idea if I had this little thing that they are advertising. So you see, you didn't need it. There's absolutely no need for it. You never thought about it, but you are being influenced by what is happening in a material plane. That is what the spirits call influenced by matter. Different than influenced by spirit. Those who are more advanced, they will. What happens in a material plane does not dictate how they live. Not for us. Okay, another interesting difference here is third order spirits, imperfect spirits, have an inclination towards evil. So it's like evil. It's the standard. So it shouldn't be, by the way, of course. But there is this strong inclination for evil things. Okay? Also, about God, Red spirits have a brief, a slight intuition of what God is, but do not comprehend. They cannot comprehend really what God is. So this is little, oh, God, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's not something strong as it should. It will be when we get from away from red into the green ones. For the green ones, instead of inclination towards evil, it's the other way around. They desire to do good all the time, 100% of the time. That's the first thing in mind, is always doing something good. So that establishes these words here that I'm putting for you on the screen. They establish the difference between third order spirits and second order spirits. First order spirits are no longer under the influence of what happens in the material plane because they do not incarnate unless they are here due to a mission that they want to accomplish. They do not need to reincarnate, but they can if they want to carry out a mission. They bring this absolutely moral and intellectual superiority that no other has, none of the other 9 categories have. It's only them. They have perfected themselves. So when we look at this categorization, this classification of the spirits according to their moral advancement, a lot of things become clear. For the same fact, for the same event, red spirits look at it one way because mostly they are looking at evil things. Green spirits will look at the same thing with good eyes. It's like the whole story, the half glass, right? You look at the bottom half and I look at the top half. It's more or less the same thing. So good spirits will never look at things as evil. They will look at things different. Red spirit usually look at things as bad, evil, not really good, because that's what the level of advancement they are in. I really encourage you to read a little bit more about the categorization of spirits. This is in the Spirits book. It starts on question 100, where Allan Kardec is going to explain a little bit of what I explained. And then there's a sequence of 10, they're not really questions, but 10 items. Each item covers one of these 10 categories that you see here. It's really interesting, and I really encourage you to take a look at this. Okay, take the time, take a look at this. It is worth it. Okay, so we're coming to the end of our program today. We are going to be off next week. So I will be back here in 2 weeks, and I'll see you. And you have a great day and be well. Thank you so much.